Oh, we lost Rick. Anyways, hello, welcome to Ops Oops Origami. Is that? Oh, that's a bottle opener. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, I need to make a shorter intro video because they're starting to come up quicker. There's not like a minute and a half lag waiting for everybody to come up, so I'll have to get a shorter version. As groovy as that one is.
It is groovy.
It is quite groovy.
I had to leave.
Yep, we noticed. You thought you'd have 2 minutes. You didn't have 2 minutes.
No, I
My
didn't.
bad. So it's been a couple of weeks because I've been busy. It's been there's been holidays, and in fact, probably won't be a show next week either because I'll be on the road. But I don't know if everybody wants to do one, I can make it happen. But I'll be down in Dallas. So, how's everybody been for the last couple of weeks?
Oh, fabulous. Busy.
Busy.
Mostly
Yes.
busy.
Mostly
Good times.
Mostly harmless.
Yes, I got my announcement that I'm making. Brian V's already on the know, but I got selected again to give a presentation over at the ICS Village for DEF CON. So I'll be going back and giving another presentation on secure voice and defensive networking.
Excellent.
So-
Nice.
Very
Yeah.
well done, sir.
That's awesome.
Super pumped.
Now it super
So-
sucks that I'm not going this year. So
That's all right. I did
Like I
make
said-
main stage. I'm thinking like 1-2 next year will be the DEF CON main stage.
yeah, I'll be there next year. You need to make DEF CON main stage.
I've got something I'm cooking on right now, but it's going to take a while for it to mature out.
Okay.
I'm going to try to weaponize a voice system by using an orchestrator. So
Okay.
it's still early on, but I still got to actually finish out the speech for this one, so I probably should stick the landing of the actual in-flight stuff.
Yeah.
Right. You should totally, give us a preview. Launch your teaser on Ops Oops Origami.
Oh.
I could let me see
Give
what
the
I
elevator
got.
pitch version.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you, but that would be pretty cool.
The
Give it
one
to us.
that I'm going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it's going to be about is overall, and I pitched it to main stage, and they gave me very, very light, like it's just not enough. It's kind of a 101 type of talk about voice in general. So I'm going from the network edge into like core stuff like PBXs and to the end devices. And it's just kind of an overview because voice is not well known, even in the networking realm, let alone security. It's like, it's just it's kind of a niche. I mean, it is, but
It's
kind
the
of reject
realm
the
of
niche.
any rules.
It's yeah, you get a lot of that, but there's also this sort of like it's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, and which is hilarious. So my talk is called "Let's Talk About Voice," insecure architectures, and so it discusses all the items of like, okay, here are the options. I'm really going down to more of a practical. Like the last one was sort of a more niche using SBCs as hostile, but I'm like, let's just go an overview of like these systems, how they work, and like the security that are options that are there, but nobody takes. They're like, oh, you have SIP secure, you have secure RTP. It's like, yeah, if you enabled it, did you? Oh no, we didn't. Like, okay, well then,
Yeah.
irrelevant. So it's going to be more of a practicality. I'm going from edge end to end. So from the outside at like the edge, like a WAN router or a SIP gateway, which is usually a piece of shit. SBC you should be using to PBX to end devices like, IP phones are one, but there's like a whole bunch of other weird shit. Like there's gate controls. There's tons of other wacky shit that people don't even know exist. Analog gateways to going to old timey phones or some shit like that. Ringers even.
Yeah.
And-
Intercom interfaces.
Yeah, with loudspeakers, those sorts of.
Yeah, loudspeakers.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there's just the funny stuff of like, hey, if you just send a SIP invite to a phone, it'll pick it up. It doesn't care what it's registered at. It'll just ring most of the time. So if you just want to like sow chaos, just send SIP packets everywhere and just see what happens. It'll be
Mhm.
pure chaos.
And everything's very trusting of the information that's in that packet.
Yeah, and the very
this is
funny
from the
thing,
CEO.
Too, is, all
Here,
these
we're gonna-
devices that are get placed on there. Hello,
There.
Oh,
Mrs. Flatcap.
Hello, Wendy. Oh, very blue.
ombre. It was
Nice.
the camera.
Ombre.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, you put it in front of his blue
Oh,
shirt.
wow.
We couldn't see it.
Ah.
Yeah, it's camouflage.
So yeah,
Yeah, overall, it's just going to be kind of a coverage of everything that's on there. It's just like a
Fun.
kind of a 101 type of talk. It's like, hey, yeah, you could secure it. It's like, oh, you know, in the past, the phones couldn't handle certificates and security, but now they absolutely can. But the methodologies haven't changed. Nobody actually does the time to secure communication between the orchestrator or even the PBX and the phones. It's all usually unencrypted across the board. And usually default passwords, too, because they're lazy.
yeah. I mean, the reality is, what makes security relevant is when somebody gets exploited, right?
Yep.
Like, why do we secure HVAC systems? Target,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And
Why
half
do
of
we-
them are running on Windows XP.
right. Why do we secure print servers and printers?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and it's kind of interesting that you bring that up, Rick, because it's like voice operates in a very similar vein. Is that because of the ephemeral ports that people tend to give up, and so they make anything going into the voice network generally unregulated and unrestricted, and then actually stuff going outbound tends to get the same treatment. They don't just like, okay, let's just make this voice network segregated and it goes out to the internet or the PBX. It usually just like is allowed to travel through the network, and so. And
Well-
because a lot of these IP devices and phones are just basically Linux boxes with
Right.
free access to the network, I'm like, well, that's probably bad.
Right.
See,
I mean,
I wonder if they'll change it all with IPv6 because there are a lot of mechanisms built in to do end-to-end encryption, like between previously uncoordinated hosts. They can just decide, hey, we're just going to go encrypted between us. Let's use this key. I wonder
and
if
that's the issue. It's not an IP problem; it's a configuration issue because whether it's running 4 or 6, it's just people don't like. You know, talk to any voice engineer that I've at least worked with. Overwhelmingly, they'll just like, as long as it works. I'm like, is it secure? Like, it works. I'm like, that's not the question
Yep.
I asked.
yeah.
Is
Or
that
they
whole-
turned the feature on once and encountered an issue, and now they will never touch it again.
Correct, and
Is
that's
Does this hold
ubiquitous.
true the same thing, Travis, with more proprietary environments like Mitel and their stuff, or even Teams or Skype for business?
Well, the funny thing is Teams actually does a good job. They do end-to-end encryption. They've actually increased their security and made it full end-to-end encryption. But they do secure SIP. It's done through REST protocol, and then they use SRTP. And you can even see that when you're building SIP trunks, like I've done for direct routing. It's required. It is not optional. So they have forced the hands of voice engineers to use encryption for that leg. Now, when it hits your SBC or PBX, you can roll unencrypted internally, and a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can control one leg, but if it's like, okay, we've got this leg, nobody's seen the end of it. It's like, what about when it pops out the other side? Oh, wildly unencrypted, and basically you could tap it easily. Like, okay, well, guess what I would attack? Not the encrypted part.
Right. Yeah.
right.
Waka waka waka.
So
Right.
my
And
question
it
is
would-
like,
if
when
you
you
keep
mentioned,
your phone system segregated to a particular VLAN where you can say, oh, okay, I'm not allowing any traffic in and out of that VLAN except for what the phones need to get.
Sure.
That's some kind of help.
Well, and
Well,
then
you
it
should
hits
be
the
doing
router, and then it's like, is there any ACLs on that router? Rarely. And this is the issue that it is you have soft clients being so popular. In order to make sure that the soft clients can talk to hard clients and vice versa, they will just open up the networks between the two and have absolutely no restrictions between them.
Oh,
Because they, like what Brian V said, it's just like, hey man, we tried it once, it failed, and my boss rode my ass or whatever, and I will never try that again. So any. But
right.
people are like, oh, it's VLAN separated. Okay, we're go up to the router. Can they touch their tips? Like, yep, they can. So
this is the face I make when you say any.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
Right.
that is the right one. And so, what you'll see is like, oh, we're not allowing any, but then you look at it and it's like, okay, well, this route is blocked, but they can just kind of go up and around, and they do because SIP is a very, robust. I suppose in one way it's aggressive. It gives a bunch of candidate options, so it just will reach out to whatever it can.
So
And eventually,
SIP finds a way.
I was going to
my
say,
question for you is, like,
finds a way.
so if given the ubiquity of SIP as a protocol,
Mhm.
but its relative lack of security, how many skeletons are hanging out there? Like how exploitable are those packets, right? Like you can't
Very.
really get in the way, right? So
Mhm.
like think of the number of things like, oh, we didn't know that we'd coded insecure when we built that 25 years ago, but log4j,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's
is
kind of
SIP
like the excuses that are used quite often. They'll be like, "Oh man, this system is like 10 years old." It's like, so what do you do as your job? I manage this system and this system alone. Oh, so you had time. You had lots of time to do something different. Oh yeah, but I didn't. Like, okay, that's just laziness. Or
This-
new systems
I-
are deployed.
I
Typically,
believe we
they're
found the
done-
root of root of the problem.
Yeah. And what has happened typically is, and this is something that I brought up. I'm actually working with Mount Hood Community College as well as audio codes, and dealing with them, audio codes was very difficult because I was like, hey, would you guys be willing to do a partnership with Mount Hood so that we could build probably one of the world's first voice labs in a college? And they're like, well, why? I'm like, okay, well, where did you learn voice? Oh, I just kind of picked it up. I'm like, I know. Wouldn't it be cool to have a formalized program, blah, blah, everything else? And they're like, well, we just picked it up. Why can't they? Like, it's a college. It's literally what they do is train people. Oh, wouldn't you like to be part of that? And they're like, nah, thanks, dog. We got our stuff. Like, right, man. It's trying to standardize and get some sort of, because I can't count the number of voice engineers I've worked with that have used the same techniques that they did 20 years ago, roll unencrypted, do any, and then just call it a day as long as it kind of works. And it's like, Jesus, man, make some sort of effort, at least modernize it by a decade. And a lot of the excuses I'll hear, especially when it comes to IP phones, is like, well, they can't handle encryption, which was true 10 years ago, but you can you can run custom certs on there. You can do all sorts of encrypted traffic. I mean, even if it's not on the IP phones, at least do it on the SBCs and your PBXs. But 9 times out of 10, they won't. Skype, you could do it out of the box. It'll be 50-60. But you can actually do it encrypted TLS. But it takes effort. And so you've got to actually do it right. And most people screw it up and then they give up and go right back to unencrypted. Oh, because it can't handle it. Oh, yeah. That 20-core server definitely can't do encryption. Stupid. It's a stupid argument by a stupid person. So, yeah, that's the state of it. As far as exploits, Chris, to answer your question, the short, my talk is simply to be like, here's Candyland, boys and girls. Wreck that shit left and right. Because if I've learned nothing in security, the only way to wake some drunk up is just wreck their stuff day in and day out. And then, oh, is that bad? Oh, it's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
So, I tried the nice way. Here's the naughty way. Guys, go to town. Here's your attack targets. Go for the PBX. Go for the SBC. Attack the IP phones. Do that voodoo that you do.
all right. So,
Excellent.
thank you. If you aren't planning to attend DEF CON, our 2 viewers, and all of you who may view us in the future,
Definitely check out the ICS Village.
Check it out. Yeah.
Sunday
And,
at 10 o'clock in the morning is my talk.
All right.
Sweet.
Be there or be square. Or just don't be
Is it
there.
being live streamed anywhere?
I don't know. They tried recording last time. They had issues, so mixed bag.
Yeah,
They're
I tried to find your stream
strangely
from last
underfunded.
year and really couldn't find it.
They're one of the biggest ones. They have a big footprint, but they're kind of tucked away in the corner as far as the presentation. But if you, I didn't even know, you go around the corner for that, and there was like a huge area that they had. I just didn't know it was there. But they've been around there like 9 or 10 years at this point over at DEF CON. They're OG as fuck. I didn't know until I went there. But yeah.
Sweet.
So Sunday, 10 o'clock. You'll hear me talk and run my mouth for 25 minutes.
Awesome.
As opposed to being here.
Yeah.
And run your mouth for 2
Both
hours.
are unpaid.
True.
This
Sorry,
one's more convenient.
you opened the door. It would have been rude for me to, not to barge through.
That's true.
Perfect.
Um,
Just audio codes has been rather difficult as of late. Not sure what they got cooking over there. Difficult how?
Ambition. Pure ambition is what it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think so.
They were trying to poach me for a while from a client, which was hilarious because I didn't know if that was like, is this even ethical? I mean, I don't care. I think it's great, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to like be the de facto voice in like, especially in direct routing and in Microsoft land. They're trying to be the big cheese. And
Okay.
to be fair, I've used a little bit of Oracle's SBC. If I remember right, it kind of sucked. Cube from Cisco, I haven't touched it, but I don't know who else has. There's a couple of other options, but Audio Codes is one of the bigger dogs on the scene right now, and they're trying to like Cisco it up on the voice side. But they haven't standardized jack shit. Their training is impossible to get a hold of, and when you can, it's expensive. So
No.
they've lost their
It's
mind.
not a good way to get market penetration unless they have like a vendor network they're trying to protect. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
Silicon
they only go
graphics,
through,
baby.
What's that, Chris?
I said silicon graphics. Just isolate out your stuff, make it super rare so that it's awesome and no one wants to use it.
Well,
Yep.
no one can afford to use it.
Mhm. Yeah, not to be
Yeah.
fair, their stuff is really good. I'm not a fan of their IP phones, and their end user devices are kind of cheap pieces of crap. But their SBCs and their software and like their intermediary stuff is really nice. I gotta give them that. It's definitely more user friendly. I basically turned the SBC into a firewall to some extent. There's a lot of great functionality that you can do with their SBCs and their intermediary devices. But getting them and their software and their support portal is bad. But they're reaching for the stars. So
Well, maybe they'll reach high enough and then sort that shit out, right? So, and make it happen.
or they get enough money and they become like the Cisco of voice. Just
Well,
make it
part of
possible.
being able to do that is cleaning up their support portal and offering some sort of education on their product and whatever.
Mhm.
We might get lucky and have they pull their head out and actually start doing that kind of stuff. And then, because I've used some audio codes gear for, paging systems and things like that. It was fairly simple to use, but I don't know, it's kind of cool. But
Yeah. Their UI is great for the most part. It's relatively user friendly. Their newer stuff is even more so, especially compared to the competition. But there is definitely like pissing matches between voice hardware people. For whatever reason, it's not a super huge thing, but instead of going something a little more open, I don't know if I'd say open source, but like standardized, they're all just trying to vie for who's going to be the the big swing dick on the scene. And it's
there's
very
not
obvious.
many people that do what they do, right? So, it's still kind of and all that stuff costs tons of money. Even a little SNOM unit or SNOM or whatever you want to call it, right? So
Yeah.
that stuff is super, super pricey because only a handful of people are actually doing it. So if
Yeah,
they
and
really-
there's
if
a
they
lack
really
of
wanted to
value.
make a real go of it, that there's only a couple of things that they really need to do, and that's like you say, it's just those couple of things. Take care of their support portal and offer some e-learning or something online.
Yeah, their classes were like in the like I think the cheapest was in the $2,000 to $3,000 for one seat for just like basic entry level training. And I'm like,
Silly.
are you out of your fucking minds? Like,
Yeah, that's just silly.
do I get a
That's-
gold seat after it? You're crazy.
right?
I had a boss that for pricing like that, he used the phrase, "For that price, it had better come with a hooker."
Yeah,
May not be appropriate, but I think the sentiment
maybe it
is
does.
understood.
I use a similar thing. It's like I better get a reach around with it as well. It's just like, come on, man. You're like who you like. This is a relatively niche area. Now maybe that's part of the price points, but overall it's just it's a frustrating point because I was put on the voice stuff and I think I did a really good job of covering it, but overall like getting support, going to forums, like any sort of standardized material is borderline non-existent. And so the only way that you can be a voice expert is purely like sheer effort. It's not because there's some sort of program you can go. There's like something called the sipschool.com, I think, which might be all right, but there's nothing standardized across the board, even though SIP is relatively standardized, and that's what all the carriers use. So it's like, why does this not exist? We all know in using the same protocol. It's not magic. But it's just that different carriers and vendors always have their pissing contests that they're just trying to dunk on each other. And to actually standardize it would mean they'd have to compete on even ground, which is exactly what they don't want.
No. Gotta lock everyone in. Gotta make your own little ecosystem.
Yep.
Yep.
Makes it harder for somebody else to take part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That's all I could come up with. So, on to the theoretical topic at hand.
Yeah.
Alerting. Let's talk alerting. Or do we want to talk
Sure.
management learns a new word first?
Oh boy.
Either.
Having been on the network side and even cyber side, alerting is just like it's like I installed a camera system somewhat recently at the house at the request of my wife, and it's like, what does alerting do? Like, is it stopping the bad guys, or is it just letting you know you're getting robbed?
So this is the
I like you milked.
I promise we'll
Boy
let
for
him come back.
life.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll be back.
You know, we can have
So anyhow,
we can have
what-
phone talk with Travis. You know, a micro
Ooh.
segment.
Phone
Great.
talk.
ASMR.
Travis.
Oh yeah,
Let's
can you
talk
ASMR
about
that?
this.
You gotta get real close.
I don't have a close mic to pull that off.
Gotta get real close and talk into it.
Phone talk with Travis. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good name of a show. Maybe I should cook that up. Phone talk with Travis.
Phone talk with Travis.
The alerting thing is just like
no one knows how to dial a phone.
the alerting thing has always been like a problem because I can't count. Like my first network engineer gig was like they brought me on. I was doing like 4 hours a week, and then they're like really liked what I was doing, so they wanted to bring me on for 20. And then they got me into their email system, and I was getting like no less than 1,000 emails a day. They're like, "Hey, pick out the one that's good."
Oh,
I was
no.
like, "How the fuck am I gonna figure that out?" Got an
You gonna make a
alert.
flow chart for us?
Oh, I am.
Make sure you got to send email, send notification, push notification. You got to probably make a
SMS.
phone call, page, SMS. Oh, of course, and MMS. You got to cover both of the spread. You got to make sure everyone knows. Automatic
Slack channel.
I was gonna say Teams channel too. Yep, you got to let
Hell,
everyone know.
Twitter.
You gotta
Ooh,
automatically cut
yeah.
a ticket.
Oh, but you're gonna have to pay for that now. That API ain't cheap, homie.
Oh, jeez. What happened to good old email gateways on
Right?
ticketing systems? Just keep it simple, stupid.
Look, nice. Oh yeah,
No,
update the ticket. Nice. Or
Yeah, no,
auto create one. Yeah,
gotta
auto paging
auto-create
is
the
great
ticket.
too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's just stick with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Make text more bigger.
Yes.
I'm working
Yeah.
on it. It's a Vizio. It's not intended for sharing on live streams.
Yeah.
Not with that negative attitude.
You're damn right. I swear, it's not my first day using this program.
We will not have Vizio talk with Chris.
Hey, you
a dirty
you
show.
have seen my Vizio work. It is actually pretty impressive, if I don't say so myself.
Takes you months, but
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
with that GCP face panel or Google Search Appliance face panel in Visio for rack diagrams was pretty epic.
That was pretty awesome. I gotta say, I wish I could find those stencils. I might even have them. That one you created, I still might have that because that was pretty
Yeah.
baller.
Travis, imagine. Have you ever seen the Google Search Appliances?
The older ones, the yellow ones.
Yeah, I've seen people sell them on like Craigslist. I was like, what the hell?
I
Looks
wonder if I
neat.
could find the faceplate. I've got one downstairs.
Is it the one that has like
Uh,
it has Google and the like multicolored letters on the front of it? I've seen
Right,
some.
and then it's got
Yeah,
like
but it's like
bubbles.
yellow, looks like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm I was
Well-
gonna pick one up just for funsies. I was like, well, that's cool. It's probably old hardware at this point.
They are, and they're a pain in the ass to work with because they're kind of coded for Google, and but you can use them for VMware, but it throws an error. You have to just ignore it and whatever.
Yeah, I got mine working. I was able to, because they're built by Dell, and you can basically the BIOS is basically protected, but there's a way to overwrite it with some Dell utilities that you're not supposed to have. So
I
you
was able to
can
do that
turn it
before,
effect.
but it would still throw an error on occasion.
Oh,
It's like
yeah,
their
see,
modded
mine-
R series, right?
yeah, it's
A 29
R720,
Again.
R730s, and R730 XDs
Hmm.
are the like three different series of them that they had.
For anybody watching too, I'm going to a pirate festival this weekend, so I don't normally wear pirate caps like a lunatic. But I am from Portland, so honestly, it's a mixed bag at this point.
True.
Oh, but anyways, we forgot the whole point of the whole GCP or the Google Search Appliance thing. The front faceplate was like custom made. It had all these little holes in it. They're all like irregularly spaced and sized, so it almost looked like cheese.
Mhm.
Yeah, Chris made a Visio stencil that had every hole basically perfect. You could have blown this up and like used it as a template to CNC a new faceplate. It was obscene.
It was
Work
awesome.
of art.
So, and the thing is, because it was see-through, you could put it on the Visio stencil for the Dell server,
Mhm.
and
You could see the hard drives through it.
right, it would look just like it did in the rack.
Oh, that's cool.
But what was worse is when I did that to the Thought Spot.
Did you really?
Yeah. So the Thought Spot was also, it was like a hexagonal
Super micro.
cut grid. It was a super micro system. But
I
the
have that too.
faceplate had the had this like hex grid and then like some curved pieces on it. And producing the cutouts of that took a while.
I wanted one of those things in the worst way until Brian told me what his electric bill was. And I
Oh
was
God.
like, nah, I don't think I need that anymore.
Yeah, so the ThoughtSpot box, it's a super micro big twin. So it's basically 4 blade servers. They're not effectively blade servers within a 2U chassis.
Wow.
I got it,
It's a first.
fired up the most badass home ESX cluster until I got my first electric bill. That first month was $800. It's like, well, turning that thing down. So I'm still running it, but I only run 2 nodes at a time.
Well, even
Which,
still, probably plenty expensive. It's
Yeah,
the
it makes my
hardware.
VSAN very unhappy, but
Yeah,
whatever.
it's the discs in it because there's 24 discs across the front,
yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
and they're not SSDs, they're spinners, and yeah.
Yeah, well, each one has 2 SSDs and then 4 spinning disks.
For
All
Christmas
2.5s.
and Thanksgiving, do you just kind of like put a TV that has a fire on it and have the kids just kind of warm up the hands?
I mean, it probably contributes to warming the house in the winter.
Yeah. And in the summer, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, yeah, in the summer. It's down in the basement. It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heat rises, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, so alerting. We've already touched on a basic thing, right? Like the knee-jerk reaction is to send it everywhere, which, as we all know, is just a horrible idea. Just
Yeah.
awful idea. But what should you do?
Alerting, I'm going to jump in there real quick.
Mhm.
Alert, if you have a help desk of any size, alerting should go to your help desk. And then whoever might be on call when that help desk is not in operation. So if you're not a 24/7 shop, you have somebody that's on call for that, and they get the alert, they verify the alert, they call out an engineer or whatever. That's the way I would want to see it done.
I would probably back it up just a little bit, Rick, and I think this is sort of a a philosophical question. Is like, what do we consider an alert? Like, I have a firewall at home. Is like, do I want to get notified every time something tries to break in, or do I want to make an alert every time something's successful? Or what do we consider alerting? By definition.
That's a
You
really
should never get an alert that someone was successful getting through, because if it was able to realize that, it could have stopped them.
Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Unless it's just an
Don't
IDS.
run
Hey,
FortiGate
you got
firewalls
broken
at home.
into,
Well,
brah.
upgrade to an IPS.
Right. Like
Even that's
That's
part
the
of the
thing that
alert. Hey, we
bugs
got
me.
broken into. It's time to upgrade to that IPS.
it's
Yeah.
that's the thing that bugs me about IDS, right? Like how are you not an IPS? Like, why are you selling this?
Well, it's like a mall security cop. It's like, hey, man, just let you know your shit's getting broken into. Are you going to stop them? Oh, no, I just let you know.
No, I'm
All
just
right.
here to call the cops.
Let you know your shit's fucked, man. Anyway, I'm gonna go take lunch.
So
Yeah.
It's like the
is
farm
your
worker that
definition,
wanders
Travis, of an alert? I mean, I get it. To answer your question, I don't want to hear every attempt, right? And if somebody does get through, they're probably the first thing they're going to do is hide the fact that they're in, and you're not going to get that alert, right?
Yeah.
So
Depends on the actor, right? Some actors are gonna try to build a bridgehead and insert themselves long term, right? Others are just gonna make it like it's the difference between the cat burglar, espionage type break in and the smash and grab, right?
Yeah.
Some people are just looking to drive the truck through the plate glass window and grab whatever they can out of Target.
Yep. And I think to kind of answer your question, Rick, is it's sort of it's an interesting philosophical question that I pose to every place that I work at, because it's so like, in a perfect world, if the platforms were matured, if things were built right, I would want to see anomalous data, something that's outside of baseline. But that's assuming that we have baseline, things are configured correctly, and people are competent. And if I see those three things together, I will call you guys immediately and say I've died and gone to heaven, because I've never seen that all together.
well,
yet.
picking you two.
You know what I want an alert? When it's important, when it's actionable, and when that action isn't automatable.
It is or is not.
Fair.
Is not.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean,
So it's something that I haven't already automated away.
So
So I would
there's
be okay with an automated, like, hey, the issue occurred, automated self-healing ran, it was successful, go back to bed. I would
That's
be
not-
okay
that's not
with
an alert.
that.
That's
That's-
not an alert.
That's not an
That
alert.
could be an
What do you
email, but it would be one that would be a candidate for an automatic filter.
Right. So here's what and Travis, I hear what you're saying. Like,
Mhm.
I want to know that my stuff is working, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be woken up at 3 a.m. for it. Like,
Yeah,
to be
well, I mean,
woken
like,
up at 3 a.m.
are we saying alert is like burp burp, like alarm sirens are going off type of stuff?
Kind of.
High importance
So-
emails.
Well,
You've got a storage system that it's going to fill up in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. I want to know
Mhm.
about that, right? Because there's something I can do. There might not be something that I can automate to make sure that doesn't happen. I should be able to if I'm a good storage engineer, but something like that deserves a klaxon going off.
Right.
Yeah.
Something needs to get me up out of bed to sort that out. But other than that, like Brian said, if I can automate whatever that response is or needs to be, right, it brings something else online or whatever, and now all of a sudden I've got storage space that'll last until I can get in the morning.
Yeah.
Then I'm good. Then that becomes informational. That email will get sent to my phone when I wake up and peel both my eyes open. I'll check my emails and I'll know I have something to address, or know that the automation that Brian built for me is working.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's kind of, it goes back to the original question that I like. It's like, what do we consider an alert? Is a notification and alert two separate things? Is one higher priority? You know, what I consider anything that you're alerting me to any information, I put them in the same boat. I say notification alert is the same effectively. Alert tends to be more of like, I get an actual a pop-up, some sort of thing that's going to stand outside of just going into my sort of automated, you know, don't give a shit categories type of stuff.
So
What I usually go with, but it could be both.
So I would say the notification is, I separate it down between alerts and reports, right? And like,
Mhm.
I don't get into like alert notification. Like, yeah, maybe, right? But like a report, it's something you might get as confirmation that something has happened, or to indicate that some large plannable work might be needed, right? Like, I don't care. I want to report when
Yeah.
my storage arrays are at 80% used, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's time to start thinking about some things, plan some work around it, right? I want an alert when like there's, you know, an hour left.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like say the storage thing, I don't want an individual one. On a daily basis, give me a summary of all the ones
Correct.
that have breached that threshold. If
Right.
that's not an urgent threshold, summarize as much as possible. Have it something that's easily filterable so I can put this in a folder so it's not popping up at me in my email. It's
Right.
there when I want to see it,
Right.
but
And
isn't
That's not
an
an
alert. It's,
alertable thing, right? Because
yeah,
if you're doing your job well as a storage engineer, you're good to go with those kind of informational things. You're checking that stuff every day, and you're mindful of how disk space is being utilized and how it's growing or not growing or whatever.
Right.
The things that we want alerts on is in when somebody developer
anomalies.
writes some kind of weird query,
Right.
and all of a sudden SQL's going batshit crazy, and your temp director or your temp DB is growing like just like crazy and whatever.
Right.
So there's going to be
our
a little
growth rate was X. Now it's X plus 1.
That's
Correct.
right. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that I need to know about right now. And then, you know, if
You crossed the 70% threshold, but you crossed it in
in a hurry,
in
Yeah.
one
Record time.
1,000th of the time
yeah,
that it,
Yep.
right, like, yeah, anomaly, to your point, Travis, like anomaly detection in a properly matured organization is where you want to be.
Yeah.
In the absence of that kind of maturity, then it's alert on what's likely broken or going to break, right?
and we were almost to that point at a place where we all worked, and then they kicked us all out of there.
Mhm.
So
Bummer.
And then, you know, your point, Brian, like, I want an alert on anything that hasn't been automated. And I don't bother to go into, is it automatable? Right? Because
That's
with
it's kind of a different question.
right, with enough effort, most things are automatable.
Anything is.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're seeing it twice a year, if you're seeing it twice a day, and it's something that's odd, like if it's something where I see this alert and I always do this same thing, you automate that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question, I asked myself two questions about alerts. Is it actionable? And I'm going to come back to that because I have a different definition of actionable than I think a lot of people do. And is it automatable? And I don't, when I ask the question about is it automatable, that's an indication, like, I put a mark on that alert, right? If I get it again, then I start to automate it, right? I might even start to automate after the first alert and then trial my automation the second time I get it, right? And then bake it out. Like, I want to get rid of the stuff as quick as possible. But
What's trying to keep your sort of proverbial plate clean, because I think that's the hardest trick with alerts and notification is like, how do you separate the wheat from the chaff? It's like that's the ultimate trick. It's like,
Correct.
and a lot of places will go open up the floodgates and then trim down, and it's like, okay, in the meantime,
don't let the chaff even get your attention.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like, for me, I like to go with quiet and then build those alerts so
Yep.
that you get interesting notifications or alerts.
So I've been through both paradigms, and I
Mhm.
actually find that open the floodgates and then pare down results in better overall alerting long term. And the reason I say that is when you build, like when you start quiet and you're like, oh, well, we missed this. A, you missed something, right? So now, like, you're on your back foot. But B, now you're building one-off alerts for each edge case. When if you'd built a macro alert and pared it down to like 6 somewhat tailored alerts, you can
Mhm.
probably cover 95, 99% of your edge cases. Whereas if you approach it as a alert for an edge case, alert for an edge case, alert for an edge case, you're going to end up with 1,000 edge case alerts that you then have to maintain and manage.
Yeah. But on the flip side, when you open up the floodgates, it just means your alerting system is basically worthless and overwhelms systems sometimes. So it's
Yeah, and
kind of a damned if you
overwhelm
do,
the
damned
people
if you
that are
don't.
looking at those alerts. Yeah,
Right.
because then you wind up with just you're fighting spam from within your own, your own systems.
Or
And I would say that
conversely, what I've seen is like if C-suite or management gets involved, they're like, "Oh my god, look at all this!" You're like, "Oh shit, I should have never let you see this."
yeah, you never let them see it.
That-
So
that-
here's
that's
the
a
thing.
different- That's a different problem
You
altogether.
don't want to see how the
Listen,
sausage is made.
Yeah,
Fair.
When you
yeah,
open
no.
the floodgates, the thing to remember when you open the floodgates is you haven't finished your job. You're in the testing phase of your implementation, right? And I think a lot of organizations are like, great, alerting setup, open it up, and then like, oh, we're done, and then all this stuff comes through, and like, no, you're not done. You've
Mhm.
started testing. You started evaluating the design of your alerts, right? And
Yeah.
if you were to go silent, then you're like, all right, we're in the evaluation phase. And like, who knows when your edge case is going to show up? It's very easy to like shut down your project. And then again, you're on your back foot trying to manage what should have been part of a project as an ad hoc thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest, I'm going through this at work right now. We're trying to redesign our alerting to be better. And
Mhm.
we absolutely have the problem of too much noise. I can't even focus on things like, is this automatable? Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So coming back to actionable, my definition of actionable is it worthy of notice by an informed person, right? When somebody says, well, what'd you do with that alert? I said, well, I looked at it. Well, that's not an action. Yeah, it is. Sometimes awareness, gaining awareness is the action, right? Like I say I'm in the process of tuning alerts, say I'm not in process of tuning alerts, and I know
I added it to a bioorganic neural net.
right.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of tuning this alert. Well, what are you doing? I'm in the process, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I know that my alerting system doesn't have the fine-grained capabilities that I need, so I have I've oversubscribed my alerts, right? I'm going to get more than I need to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I've got a down server. I'm worried when it's 2 of them.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that goes to like thresholds and like aggregates. Is like, all right, 1 alert on the server, whatever. 2, okay. 3, oh shit. It's like, you have those sort of thresholds in which it becomes interesting. It's no longer like, whatever. It's like, okay,
Right.
I need to take a look at this. And
Well,
The server
then do we
was
define-
down 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Do we define classes of alerts then? Right. This alert is informational. This one is this, and this one is you better get off your rear end.
Yeah.
I would think so, and I would have them clearly marked somewhere filterable. Like say it's email.
yeah,
Have your notifications and alerts easily filterable, because some of them are going to you're going to need to filter some of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
with the ability, like you said, to tag, maybe put in the subject line as like alert level 5, alert level 1. You'd be
Right.
like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
If it's not 4 or above, piss off. Oh, it's a 5. Oh shit. Roll credits. Let's go.
You're using is that DEF CON numbers?
I don't know. I just pulled a number out of my butt.
The
to be honest.
rest of us use ordinal ranking, right?
Well-
Like Sev 1 is the worst.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you can also use
Sev A.
those that tagging if you do have these going to a ticketing system to automate tickets at some level. You can use those tickets to route it to the correct group, to set the severity correctly, all kinds of things, assuming that your ticketing system isn't
Right.
absolute garbage and you're willing to
Or
do
your
the
ticket
setup.
errors aren't garbage either. It's a
Well,
Sev 1. It's like it's a cert that pops in 30 days. Oh, that's Sev 1. Like, oh, get
Right.
out now.
It says expiring. It sure does.
it sure
does it-
does. Yep.
does it
Those
say
are absolutely words.
Confirmed. My actionable thing is I have confirmed the words coming out of your mouth. Done.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I have some sympathy for like those frontline service desk knock people, right? Like
We've all been there to some extent.
that is not a late career job, right? That's like I just got out of tech school, or like, hey, I managed to crawl out of fast food and get a lucky hit at an employment agency.
I'm not going to necessarily agree with that, because I know some really good help desk people that enjoy being on the help desk that are not, entry level people that are
Sure. Are those the people that are taking midnight calls?
some of them.
Okay. I mean,
But
I know
overwhelmingly, probably
of
not.
those as
I would
well.
imagine. As
But-
usually, they're not the.
For the most part, Chris, I'll give that to you that typically help desk people are entry level. If they're just out of tech school, just out of college, or somebody's made a career change choice or whatever, and they're relatively new. But there's always those few people, and just about every help desk I've ever worked with, there's always been those one or two people on that help desk that were very, very good.
Sure.
Right.
Well, so
Know what
I guess
I mean, there was stuff at the bulb, right?
Yeah.
That were very good at what they did.
And I guess the thing
long-term
I'm trying to
people.
say isn't so much that like there aren't good people on
Mhm.
those things. It's that like it's not only the good people that are on that on-call rotation, right?
Mhm.
A lot of that on-call rotation just doesn't have the experience to filter things. So
That's true, but then we've spoken about this before. I mean, we've had programs or shows or whatever where we've talked about that. I mean, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that the people that are feeding us information are giving us the right information and know what to do with it, right? That's up to us, right? So if the help desk is failing to give me the information I need, that's my fault.
Well, if you haven't given them the framework to do so, then yes. But if you have and they told you to go pound sand, or they're just too lazy to do
Yeah.
it,
That's a different issue, right? Because
I mean-
that's a behavioral
Ticket
issue.
closed. Nothing actionable.
Yeah, yeah. That's a different issue, and they will weed themselves out. Speaking of chat,
right. That
not
starts as a
always,
management
though.
issue.
Mine's been a mixed bag of people that have been like, this person is. I've even seen engineer level people like, you are unfit for this position, and you probably always have been unfit.
then
But
you're not
like I said,
noisy,
behavioral problem rather than a technical problem.
right? Because
Right.
there's no such thing as a technical solution to a behavioral problem. There simply
Well,
is.
cattle prod, I always recommend that. Like
Yeah.
20,000 volts will do a lot.
Electric chair works even better.
It will permanently solve your problem. 100%. Well, I think the record's a little mixed, but it's high. It's upper
Creates
90s.
new ones, but yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, now you're starting to delve into the world of the bastard, right? So the bastard operator from hell kind of things.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So
Card
yeah,
carrying member.
Yeah. Okay, Simon.
so actionable. Pay attention to automatable. Make sure your alert text is clear. Like, man, if you've got more than 5 words in your alert subject, or effectively the length of 5 words, if it doesn't fit in the displayable subject on
Without
your cell
rolling
phone
on,
held this way,
Yep. It's too long.
your subject is too long.
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
And
it needs
speaking
to
of
come with severity
automatable,
first. Yeah.
know the difference between something that should be automated and something that should be fixed.
Okay, yeah.
That's a
Those are
very
not
good point.
necessarily. Those are rarely the same thing.
Oh no.
Brian, you trying to stomp on my
Is there
my
a
way of
root
living?
cause causing this? Oh, I always run out of disk space because something does whatever and fills it up with just junk. Well, why is it doing that? Well, I don't know.
Well, it does it.
maybe-
Does it at the very last week of the month, just right after they do month-end inventory, and it happens every month.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, right? So these things that are almost predictable that we always get an alert on that we don't do anything about.
So let's say it was month end.
Sometimes those are just a checkbox away from salvation. There's some setting. There's some.
So
There's
let's
a
say it's
log
month end.
rotate setting that should have
Yeah.
been set or something like that.
Right.
Sure. So
Yep.
like this is the interesting thing, and this is something that I've come to relatively recently. I think a lot of people look at like, okay, my disk is filling up. Well, what's the next step? Oh, you figure out what it is. Oh, it's a month-end process. Let's clean up the month-end process, right? Like that's the thing they go to. Maybe it's a log rotation setting, whatever.
Yeah.
I've recently come to the point where I'm like, do we need to do month-end? Right? Like, why are we fixing a process that doesn't belong? So,
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
it's that deep dive
mean-
that is worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, accounting really hates you when you ask that question, but
I mean, I always kind of look at it.
Because we've been doing it for 30 years, Chris.
Here's the ultimate question for me is like, there's always like a little bit, because I really don't respect people who go the route of like protecting their job or protecting whatever by allowing ancient processes or the repetitive problem that's end of month type stuff or whatever. But there is a nugget of truth in it. It's like, if I fix the problem, then my job security is in question. But there is a level of like, well, maybe you
How
should.
crap do you have to
evolve.
be at your job where that's the only thing that's keeping you that job?
Yeah,
If-
that's
I mean,
if you are in,
mentality is
if
just
you are in
silly.
infrastructure and operations in information technology, the difference between people who have a job today after more than 10 years and people that don't are the ones that chose to protect their job don't have them anymore. Our
That's
job
very true.
is to do
Usually, yeah.
more with
Agreed.
less every year. And those that do it well continue to be employed.
And the
'Cause-
funny thing though is that the more I clean things up, the more I make things automated and better and more reliable, the more work I find that needs to be done.
Yeah.
It just works
And
out. Right? It's just simply, and the boss will come up and say, well, we got this all going. This is great. Now let's do these things. Well, now I've
Yeah.
got another 2 years worth of work on my plate. Right. So
Yeah,
I've
it
just
kind
never
of
been
goes
on
down,
board
right?
with that. I'm going to keep these things. I'm okay with this because it keeps me employed. That's like Microsoft is going to keep us employed, for crying out
Yeah.
loud. Right?
Yes, they are.
So,
It's an interesting paradigm, like, because I find like, when you're more entry level, let's say even service desk, but let's say tier 2, you tend to be I divide them into operational and engineering. Like, if you're operational, you're dealing with alerts, the repetitive same bullshit over and over. Engineering is like, okay, we're actually going to dig deep into those roots and overhaul or evolve or whatever. We're going to make it so those alerts never come up again, or the alerts can't, because we fixed the core root problem, to your point, Brian, right? It's just what realm do you operate in? And I find that if you're an immature organization, team, whatever, you're in firefighting mode. You're ops all day long trying to stop the fires. But at a certain point, you mature to the point where like you're evolving platforms. You're building stuff. You're actually engineering. And so those alerts will be very different from the operational ones. Engineering is your experiment blew up versus the same bullshit is happening again, Chief. It's like, they're just
Congratulations,
different.
Travis. You just described SRE.
I'll take
Right,
my 200K now, Amazon, please.
They I mean, that's what it is in a nutshell. Stop knee jerking. Stop doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a
And
different
expecting
result.
different results.
Right? And start solving problems.
But there's also an interesting, and this is, you go with like alerting and notification. There's a link to sort of incentivification because I've had this problem every time when it comes with like tickets. Every time something happens, an alert goes out, it creates a ticket, and it's easy for me to close out, and my metric is how many tickets I'm burning through in a day. Oh, you better believe I ain't fixing
You're
that
measuring
shit.
the
It's
wrong
like,
thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
If you
So
want,
usually I'll move away from the place, but in the meantime, I'm like, oh, this is just like racking up wins for me. So there
every
is
time
no incentivification for me to fix it.
every time I get in a conversation at a place of employment about ticket closure rates, I'm like, do you want to be AT&T?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Or
And
any
they
other
look at me kind of funny. I'm
ISP
like,
or
have you
cell
called
phone
AT&T recently? Like, oh, their
carrier.
customer service is horrible. Right? Like,
I
don't
bet
make
you their ticket
closure-
rates are great.
Yeah.
Right.
Close out
Don't
a lot
make
of
ticket
tickets.
closure your metric. It's not just, and for them, it's not just ticket. It's how many and how fast.
Yeah.
And like,
And that goes with alerts and notifications and even reports, right? It's like I can't count the number of times that I've had someone, either a boss or C-suite or director, be like, I want to report on how our internet's doing. It's like, well, here's some numbers. They don't really mean jack shit, but here you go. It's a pretty pie chart. And they're like, ooh, sounds good. This is looking great. It's better than last month. Like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but sure.
Look.
Yeah. Didn't we talk about KPIs not too long ago?
sure.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, briefly.
KPIs.
But
That's the
alerting,
same sort
like
of thing
if
with
you're
KPIs.
you create or you manage an alerting type of system, it's like I know a lot of their metrics is like how many alerts do we send out? Like 10 million. Oh, that's awesome. Like, is it? You think that might be a little excessive? Some people are just kind of putting those in the old inbox in the trash can.
Let's see. We blocked less spam last month than the month before.
Like, oh God,
is our
what's wrong
spam
with our
filter?
systems? Or we blocked more spam this month. Well, are they working better, or is there more being sent? You're not looking at a useful metric.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and make 1 out of every 2 emails spam, and now I blocked a whole bunch of shit. I'm a defender, boy. Like, well, kinda, not technically untrue.
Right. So yeah, alerting. It sucks when there are too many.
I think there's that Brian brings up a really good point. It's like that, like prioritization, the importance level. I mean, if I had an alert that says like, warning, a marketing email just got to your CIO and it's something very shiny and new, but like, uh-oh, incoming.
Has a bunch of new words in it.
There's this great new thing. We got to get it going. Like, no.
I mean,
Email system.
that's the term that they use where I work now is marketecture.
Ooh, I like that.
Marketected the shit out of that.
Right, like,
Yeah. I like that.
oh look, hey, I sat next to a guy on a plane and I got this great idea. Or I picked up the Sky Mall and there was an article on, and so I bought you a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, for what? Well, it's going to do all this. Well, no, it's not.
Do we need any of those things?
It says right here, it will do all of this.
Oh,
Brian, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah. And this is something we've talked about a lot. It's basically doing projects in reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a variant of that.
Yeah.
Except for in this
improper.
case, you never get to the point where you're selecting vendors.
Yeah, because somebody has already bought something, and now you have to implement whatever.
Right.
Well,
Well,
is it
that is a solution searching for a problem 9 times out of 10. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
And I was going to say,
But
Rick,
when it's already been paid
interesting.
for.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it. Actually, was one of the places I worked at. There was like, this going on alerts and notifications. Be like, oh man, it's it's almost noon, and there's been no tickets created, no notifications, no alerts. This is awesome. It was like, we usually get like 10 in the morning. Like, isn't this weird? Oh no, it's fine. It's like, no, it's too quiet. Like that, something's going
working.
on. We need to go take a gander. Or the like you said, Rick, problem looking for a solution, or solution looking for a problem.
Looking for a problem.
Yeah, It's like, oh, you know what's really sucky? Like I go home and I don't have something that pages me 100 times at night. We can fix that.
Yes,
We're
we
going to give
can.
you so many notifications. We're going to be alerting you at 2 a.m. for everything. It's like, got you fixed there. You enjoyed your
So-
peace and quiet. We're fixing that for you.
I know you like your peace and quiet, but once every 2 years, we have a thing that causes the accounting department to have to work for an extra 5 minutes. So we're going to fix
Renewals.
that by giving you 1,000 alerts a day.
Smart.
Yeah. I had an epiphany on the architecture thing. Like inevitably, it's this exact conversation where it's like, I can picture it in my head, so it must be possible to build it, right? Just
Sometimes.
here's my sketch. Do that.
Like, oh, this
Right.
is awesome. I'll show this to my kids.
The idea that
You can go to summer camp together. Make some awesome macaroni art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's the idea that if you can visualize it, if you can conceive it, clearly it must be able to be done. And my counterpoint to that is there's a really cool experiment you can do with colors. You can shine a bright like orange light at your face and then take it away, and the after image is what's called super blue. You can see it, but there is no way to create super blue in the real world. It's just the hangover of your eyes. So so the next time an executive comes to you and says, well, it's really simple, just do this, do that experiment with them. Like, see, you can see that. Now produce that color for me. And when they can't, like, same thing.
Mm-hmm. There was a phrase that was in medicine that was really cool, in which you see like sometimes the medicine is worse than the disease, and it's like you have to really be aware that like, are you creating a solution that is worse than the problem and could be even scaled worse as well. So like, oh, you see all these like advertisements that are always places like, oh, do you having trouble sleeping? Take this one pill, and the only side effects may be diarrhea and suicide and death.
But
like,
guess what? We have pills for those too.
it's like, I think I'll stick with the sleep insomnia, please. Like that seems survivable. The solution seems lethal, so.
Yeah, taking some insomnia medicine will make you buy things off of Amazon and not know it until 3 days later when it shows up on the doorstep.
And we have a lot of the things in tech. I mean, there's a term like over-engineering, but that's usually like usually somewhat of a positive light, as opposed to like, I've engineered a solution that is so much worse than the original problem. I don't know. Is there a word for that in IT or tech or any engineering in general?
Nerd knobs.
Oh, well, yeah.
They're knobs, yeah.
You could go with that.
That's more twisting up what you got, but it's a less good version of what you could have had, so
yeah,
sort of fits.
we might not
like
have
that.
one.
That level of over engineering, assuming it's not just bad engineering, right? Like
it's usually bad engineering. I mean, over engineering usually has at least a fairly. It's like you did a good job. It was just like super overkill, but it usually means the end result was actually a net positive overall, even if it was maybe a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory, as opposed to something where it's like the solution is so much worse than the problem.
So it's totally possible to get there, to get to a worse solution than the original problem using good engineering, right? Like the slippery slope theory. You do like, what's the difference between an adequate solution and a perfect solution? Or a good solution and a perfect solution? Well, perfect solutions are impossible.
Yeah.
But like chasing that dream is going to end up you're going to end up with a shit show. Every time.
Yeah.
So
it can. I mean, it really comes down to, I don't know. I really like to do the side by side. It's like, okay, let's have an honest breakdown. This side of the page is your problem. This side of the page is the solution. Let's do an apples to apples. Is like, is this an acceptable trade-off? And I would even say for like when you, let's say, migrate or upgrade systems. It's like, all right, here was, VoIP vendor A, here's now VoIP vendor B, or MSP, whatever. Let's weigh the pros and cons. And in theory, we should be doing the one that has the most pros and the fewest cons. And that tends to ferret that problem out more often than not, but I don't know how often leadership or project managers actually do it.
It's also
and something like that, where you're evaluating, when you're evaluating new solutions, another thing you have to be very careful about is vendors lie.
Yeah.
They lie about the capabilities of their software, the configuration, basically everything. Well, it's more, I mean, the product is probably great until the salespeople decide to talk about it. So
well, that depends. Remember Argent?
Yeah, that was
it had its moments.
Yeah.
Or the solutions are temporal, right? It's like E3 with revealing games did this like routinely. Is like, oh yeah, it's gonna be so great after the last patch. Like, what was that last part? It's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great in 2 years. It'll be fantastic. Well, what about now? In 2 years though, ooh, gonna be awesome.
So
No Man's Sky.
Well, and then it's the question of like, can I just wait to pay for it for 2 years? And the answer is no. If you want it to ever be great, you have to pay for it now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't be able to afford to finish making this behemoth.
Yeah. There's actually a company that I use. It's like one of their bidets, which are really nice, but they're a major company and they crowdsource their research and development for a new product, and people did it. It's like, man, good on you for getting away, but man, you guys are suckers.
Right.
Like, that's literally a department. It's research and development, and they fund their own R&D. But you all bought into it, so.
You all know that I'm a fan of the Firewalla company, right? They don't fund their R&D on crowdsource, but they do fund their initial production runs. So they come up, they do their proof of concept product, have it ready to go, and then like, this is what's coming out. This is the features. If y'all want in,
which firewall is this?
Firewalla.
Mm-hmm. I haven't used any of their stuff, but it looks pretty neat.
It's like home consumer grade stuff. They're starting to break into like small business.
Yeah, they're going like prosumer kind of level, right? They're creeping up to that.
And their value proposition is pretty straightforward. No subscriptions, right?
Don't they have their like colored boxes too? They have like gold boxes and purple boxes.
Yeah, it's they don't sell the red anymore, but it's blue plus, gold, and purple. And different purposes for, like, the gold is the best one, but the purple is an interesting solution. And like, I had one for a while, unplugged it in a troubleshooting effort and haven't plugged it back in. But anyway, I just found it interesting that they source by, like, their production run is sourced by crowdfunding.
Right? Oh, Firewalla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Firewall with an A at the end. That's it.
And it's the reason I got it is I knew that if I were to ever get hit by a truck, when you could download the app and be up and running and be able to do it, right? Like manage the home firewall without any issue. The reason I stopped worrying about that is Brian pointed out that she would not be flying solo.
No, she wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, and there's a PA220 in your future, supposed to be. So
right.
I'm still waiting on the renewal for that. So I have both mine and the one from you, Rick. They're both in my name, but because it was originally purchased through Insight, they won't let me renew through Veritable. Like, I had to. First, they asked I needed to send an email to Insight and tell them, hey, I'm not renewing through you. I want to renew through this company instead. You are no longer the incumbent. But then that wasn't enough. Now they want an email back from them, like confirming. Well, they're not going to respond to that. So mine is expired too. And I have a quote for a new pair of PA440s.
Right? Because mine is
So
Sounds like you need an internal email server that has the insight.com domain.
yeah, right.
Just a thought.
Yeah, yeah, because like George isn't doing. He's not an account manager anymore. He's doing some other job internally, but. So yeah, I'll figure something out.
That's
I want to
interesting.
get those things up and going.
Because my 440s, I'm able to renew them just fine.
Yeah, who'd you?
I'll rub
Who
the
was
salt
those?
in the wound
Well,
there,
those
Rick.
were
Jeez.
through us, weren't they?
Yeah,
They were through Veritable, yeah.
right.
Because they originally got purchased through Veritable.
Yeah.
Whereas mine, this was 4 years ago. I bought them through Insight,
Okay.
through George, and now I can't renew them. Well, eventually I will. I'll get it straightened out, but it's
Why
just
don't you just renew
pain in
them
the
right
butt.
now? Get them renewed through Insight and be done with it, and then take that next year to get it transferred over to Variable.
I don't want them to have any of my money.
Well, I get it, but still,
They're a big enough pain in my butt already.
I get it. Yeah,
You have no idea.
well, they're all.
I mean, it's not that side of the house, but
Yeah, I've all but stopped using them because they just don't respond anymore, right? So
yeah.
So
George was the
we got-
reason we bought everything through them.
Yeah, we got spoiled from George, and
Yeah.
Yeah. let's see, licenses. When do I? This is weird. I think they kind of got renewed along with everything else that was purchased. If that makes sense.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it would have been so cheap they wouldn't have even noticed.
Yeah. So that's okay. I'm good until June 17th, 2024.
No. Okay. Yeah.
He's Rick.
But,
You're just
yeah,
like
yeah.
rubbing salt in the wound, like, oh, mine's all taken care of. It's really
That's just
nice.
fine. Yes.
It's got the glass for it too. Nice.
Well, it actually says Blanton's on it because tonight I'm drinking Blanton's.
Right, you don't have a
I
cat
got
up
one-
on your lap. No for you, Mr. Bond.
Come here, you.
There we go. Hey, Rosie.
Hey, doggo.
Here, you want to try some of this?
Credenza. Nice. Keeps the riffraff out.
I'm just waiting for Rick to read it.
Yeah, whatever it is, I can't see it.
It says Rick keeps his licensed Palo Altos in the credenza.
Ah,
I keep everything in my credenza.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, get
Yeah.
down. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
all right.
Right on.
Here's an interesting case study. Like, let's say this is hypothetical, even though it's not. Have a system, aka SolarWinds or equivalent, some sort of monitoring system, and that generates, because a lot of these systems will auto-generate a ticket, and then you have someone handle the ticket, and then they generally, maybe depending on your help desk, maybe they're just mail sorters and not troubleshooters. They just end up sending on to you. So you have this sort of convoluted system that creates the notification occurs, the alert, then it goes to a ticket, then it goes to a person, then it goes to you, or some sort of tech or whatnot. Is there a value in that?
Yes.
And how do you think? Yeah.
So, like, I'm on that quick for a specific reason. In order to be present for things like email alerts and tickets and whatnot, you have to be awake. People are like, oh, I've got notifications set up on my phone. Nope. The only thing that works on a phone is the ringer on loud next to your head that can be rung multiple times in repetition. You know what can do that? A human.
Yeah,
That's it.
PagerDuty, I'll give them a little bit of credit. They do have a alerting system that's supposed to have prioritizations for notifications, high
Sure.
priority or low. Yeah,
like
if
you
it
can,
works.
so PagerDuty and a couple other things are starting to replicate that like human capability of like how to call and how to escalate.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You get so much with a human, even an uninformed human that's not a good troubleshooter. They can follow process, they can take input, right? Like
Like they
you
can. I'll agree with you there.
you can't take a call from PagerDuty and groggily say, can you get me the number for the database guy? Like PagerDuty can't do that for you. But that human in the knock that's awake can.
Yeah, or even explain it twice.
Sometimes.
What's down? Can you say that again?
Um, and that's the thing. Like, if you have a knock, use them. Or
Absolutely.
service
Yeah.
desk or whatever, right? Like those people are
Absolutely.
being paid to be awake for that period.
Even if you have to
if
rent one, right?
Right.
Rent a knock.
I would rather have a 24/7 call service, even out of India, right? Somebody that's awake and alert, receiving alerts when I'm asleep, unless I can afford to staff something 24/7. And even then, like as like a top level resource, I'm not staying awake 24 hours a day. I'm
Well,
not
I
even
think
taking a
that-
third
that-
shift.
There's always that question, right? Is notifications, alerts going to a human? And for me, I'm always a bigger fan of the robots because the robot is going to give me accurate information of what it's been fed, and the human, it's too much of a grab bag for me. There have been some exceptional service desk people that I've worked with over the years. There have been people that are so worthless, they're like the worst game of telephone. It's like, you didn't tell me anything that was correct. You didn't even tell me what the problem was. You did infinitely worse than the notification itself coming from SolarWinds or a machine. So it's
I mean,
the instability is what bothers me. It's like, I don't know what I'm gonna get.
I've never had somebody, even the worst of them, that have called me with whatever they say when they call me. When I respond, okay, can you read me the alert? Do anything other than just read me the alert, right? And you know what that saves me? That saves me in my just fucking woke up brain from having to go find the alert in my stack of emails.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, at that point, they're doing exactly what that automated system is doing. But, and maybe that's all they're capable of doing. Yeah, at that point, they're more expensive. But if you get the, like, if say half of your knock techs are that way and the other half are actually good troubleshooters, I'll take that grab bag.
I would. You bet.
It depends on the mix. Like my threshold is 70% capable and 30% useless. Once you go under that 70% of usefulness, that's too iffy for me.
That's
my metric.
This
Wow,
is the project manager.
Your expectations are really too high.
They are, and that's who I am.
I'm trying not to be funny, and I don't mean to be funny, but your expectations
you're very accurate,
are too high, right?
Yeah.
Because all that's going to do is lead to you being frustrated every time your phone rings.
Which is exactly what happens, but
or he's going to push for automation. So the thing that the thing that I would say is that, like, if your mix is over 20% adequate response, those people are people that know what they're doing and have learned what they need to do, right? And are good at it.
Well, are you considering that adequate? Because I would consider that like exceptional. Like my 70% metric is like, you didn't just read the alert and you read it correctly. That would be
so. The thing is
adequate to me.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Now they don't have to start in my way.
Yeah.
They don't have to start by calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning, right, and trying to tell me something's wrong. I get what you're saying, Travis. I really, really do.
Yeah,
but
I'm not saying you got to be
on
nice
you
to
to train your help desk staff. It really is.
Yeah, and I've been on the unfortunate end of like, hey, this is the help desk. Call and let you know that the ticket's in your queue. Bye. I'm like,
no, that's unacceptable. That
The
Right.
fuck is this? And you look at the ticket and it's like empty. I'm like, am I like, what am I? I'm not. Well, early on,
Oh,
I
no.
was like a good boy and I would actually hunt it down. Now I'm like, all right, cool, closed ticket, no actionable thing. Good
You're
luck.
doing that the wrong way, Travis.
those should be
Now,
vetted.
Yeah,
if you get
yeah,
that
they really
ticket,
should.
you escalate.
Well,
I
it's
got it.
What if
escalated
he's
to
the
eight.
escalation?
Yeah, escalate to it.
De-escalate.
In his scenario, Chris,
Hold
there's
on.
nobody to escalate the ticket.
Oh, yes, there
because
is.
there's no
Is he the
information in ticket.
CEO?
What's that?
No.
Is he the
No, you-
CEO? Because if he's not, there's an escalation point. The point is, if you want that kind of shit to stop, you make it painful for the person above you, and you iterate why you have made it painful for them. I got
Yeah.
a call from the help desk. They didn't identify themselves. They told me there was a ticket in my queue. I looked at it. It's empty. I don't know if something's broken or not. So now it's your fucking problem, CEO or supervisor or whatever, right? As
Yeah.
soon as that happens to them, shit will rain from the sky in unending sheets until
Mhm.
that kind of thing ends.
Usually, in my experience,
Sometimes.
when I've tried to do silly stuff like that, is that the shit rained from the sky right on top of my head.
Backfires.
Yeah.
I mean,
So yeah,
You see,
I haven't
I'm
been as
actually
lucky
okay.
apparently as you have, Chris.
no, like
Yeah.
the old adage, I'd slap you, but shit splatters, right?
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
saying
there's-
you can do that with no repercussions, but
Yeah.
sometimes you roll the
Well,
dice.
Well, I'm
No,
actually
you
okay
Follow
with
the chain of
reaper.
command.
What I have done precisely, what I have done is lit up the help desk person when I saw them the next day or when I talked to them or whatever, and then I also lit up that person's supervisor.
Right.
Right. So, and then my supervisor lights me up for starting a war. But at
Mhm.
least now that awareness there that, hey, I need that help desk guy knows I need to do my job a little bit better if I'm going to call Rick.
Yeah,
Right,
I do the
so-
same thing, Rick. That's what I've modded myself is like, because people know that, oh, if Travis is here, he's on the war path. I'm like, you goddamn right I am. Because
Yeah.
if I'm in here and you don't bring architectural documents and your stuff isn't like down pat, I'm going to ridicule you publicly and I will burn you into ashes and in front of everybody so that they can witness what's happening. So the next time they're like, oh, should I call? Oh, wait, is my ticket done? Hold on 1 second. I don't want to get nuked from orbit. So there is
So-
that level of.
Yeah, if
I
I'm
don't
in
like
your
doing it all
area
the
and I
time.
haven't come over and said hello first, there's an issue. And I've done that a couple of times at a couple of different places, and I usually wind up in easily as much trouble as whoever I'm
If
lighting
not
up,
more.
I mean,
if not
so-
more. But the issue gets handled. So that's just it's a situation I'm willing to endure.
correct. Now, my tack on that is never to light up the person that called me. Because all they're going to do is be like, oh, I don't want to call Chris. That's not what I want.
I want
want
that.
them to
I
be-
really want that.
No, you want them to be You don't want that. You think you do, but you're wrong. And here's why I say that. You want them to be better. And
Sure.
making them afraid of you doesn't make them better.
But it makes me not get bugged in the middle of the night, so that's a very beautiful second.
So when someday they get the thing of like, well, I tried to call Travis, but I didn't have all the stuff he told me I had to have before I called him. And they're like, yeah, but the building was burning. Like, yeah, but Travis made it really clear that I should never yeah, you're gonna get your ass handed to you. Because
Yeah,
everybody's
I can
gonna
take
get
it.
it. Right?
It usually has worked out in my experience after I'm recovered from being chewed on that I probably have coming. Then I go over there and say, okay, look, here's what we need. Right. And I get into a tone and I try to, at that point, it's not, I don't, mentor's the wrong word, but
Mhm.
here's what I need you to
It
do.
is
That's
the
the right
right
word.
word.
Do this all next
Yeah.
time. We started a calibration grade shitstorm. Here's what I need from you. Let's work on this.
So here's the way I approach
I
it.
have to get their attention first, right? So
You don't.
in my experience, I have to, yeah.
Mentor
With Rick on
first. Right? And that's been my approach is mentor first. When they don't get it, go to their manager and say, I don't feel like they're getting it. And if the manager's the problem, I'm like, hey, I feel like there's a communication gap. Can I get in front of your people and communicate directly to them? Right? Like, I kill them with kindness. Hey, let me do your job for you. Let me do your job for you. And at the end of the day, when you've
kind of
done
like
that,
it can be a little doormatish. And I mean, it's like, oh, your
Yeah.
manager's not managing his people. Like, why? And I've told people, I'm like, okay, I'll do this, I'll mentor, I'll help, but you got to give me your paycheck. That's the deal. You are not doing your job. You give me your money, and I'll do it. And I'm
Right.
cool with drawing that
So,
line in the sand.
I worked at a place where everything was scripted. They weren't the help desk people weren't allowed to go out of the box and whatever. And that's a real issue, right? When you're taking phone calls and taking issues and whatever, and you're throwing that grenade over the fence, that grenade needs to come with some sort of flak jacket, right? So give me the information I need, and I need these people to. Well, it's not in our scripts and whatever. You have to call. I'm like, no, I don't have time to
Add
do all
it.
that. So
Well, you got, and that's the fair thing, right? Is are you nuking a service desk person because they're following orders? And that's not a fair thing to do. I nuked the manager at that point. It's like your process is shit. They were doing exactly as they were told. That's their prerogative. You did. But if they went off script and are like, well, I'm supposed to do all this information, but I'm not. I'm like, okay, nuke incoming. I've got tone.
Right.
Like,
sure,
that's fair.
if somebody's
To
not
me.
doing their job, observably so, right?
Yes.
You can be
So
like,
is it incumbent
so-
upon me or any other engineer to comp that gap without the shoulder boards and the pay accompanying? I say no, but that's me.
I'm sorry. As an engineer level, are you getting paid the same as that help desk person?
no,
No,
See,
but
you've got the
he is
shoulder
getting
boards
paid
and
or
the
she's
pay.
getting paid
Sorry.
for their work, right?
I know I keep flip flopping back between Travis Camp and Chris Camp. But now I'm going to jump over to Chris Camp. So yeah, because he's exactly
You've
right.
always made a good pivot, man.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, Brian. Appreciate that.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
Many an hour.
But holy fuck.
Soft hands.
No, but that's the difficult thing, right? I mean, I'm a hard ass by nature, and I'm very proud of it. But it's like I try to be tough but fair. And so if someone's doing what they're instructed to do, but I don't like it, I'll try to be like, yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
their
gonna ride
boss's
fast.
problem then.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's higher up the chain, and I'll put CEOs on blast. I don't give a shit. It's like,
Well,
dude,
in that
you're ruining your
situation, I was
people. You're
able to
making
get
it
that-
worse.
I was able to get that issue remedied. Let your people think outside the box. It gives them ownership. It gives them. I mean, you wind up with a better class of troubleshooter. They learn things that way instead of just saying, here's your little area. Don't step outside that circle, by God. And actually, we got better performance out of the help desk going forward, right? But every now and then, that nuke, that that napalm strike has got to happen. It just sometimes it has to happen.
And I usually, to make it fair, is that you have to call the shot. You're like, I'm not nuking you for funsies. Here's why I'm nuking you, and this is why I'm going to continue to nuke you until the lesson is learned.
Right.
I think that's a fair balancing of the karma, at least
So-
for
Right,
me.
and you can't do it and make it personal though either. So I mean, I sound like I'm a
that's
badass,
not
but I'm
productive.
not. Right, and I don't.
I'm just
do
gonna
my
say-
best not to make it personal.
I have found in my experience that it is far more effective to, if you have to engage them in what would normally be like a light 'em up, nuke 'em situation, instead to make them fully aware that you are doing them the hugest favor that they have ever been done. Because someone feels way worse about the thing that they accidentally put on somebody and is fully aware of it than the thing that they got yelled at and they didn't understand why.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? Is if you're gonna nuke, you have to explain explicitly with
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
like vagueness of like, well, I just felt that. It's like, no, explicit. You did not do X, Y, Z in this time, in this format, blah blah blah. That's why you're getting lit up.
And this wasn't a daily or a weekly or even a monthly occurrence, right? So
Sure.
Yeah. If
I
you're
mean-
just raging every day or every week, it's like, all right, maybe you just have an anger
then
problem.
you're just an
Oh,
asshole.
I
and you're
know
kind of
Rick
wrong.
doesn't
Maybe
didn't
you're
rage
aware of the
more
attack
than
asshole.
like twice a year.
Well, that might be a little light, Chris, but I appreciate that.
I mean, legitimate rage as opposed
Legitimate
to
rage?
like demonstrable rage.
I can't remember the last time I actually did that.
Alzheimer's is a wonderful thing.
You,
Yeah, I can. It was recent. I probably do it. I probably at least once a month, maybe twice a month.
well,
But it's
my,
usually with different teams. It's not the same ones. It's
my
usually
job
someone's-
role has changed, right? So it is absolutely not in my job description to be that way at any time for any reason. Right.
Like you're a manager, right?
Yeah, I'm a director. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you as a director, you shouldn't be unhinged. You need to be the steady hand.
I
Now,
can
I'm
get frustrated.
an engineer as an IC. I can go
Travis,
rage.
can you write
Yeah.
a book on that? Because the
What's
number
that?
of directors that I've known that decide that it's appropriate to be unhinged with like techs, admins, low-level engineers is
Yeah,
way
it's
higher than it should be.
It's crazy to see in person because you're like, dude, you just like crush the morale of everyone in this room, man. You are the worst type of leader right now.
Permanently.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Well, I've seen
exactly.
people actually quit because of something like that. There was witness to it with somebody that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
That in front of a group of people just flew off the handle, where I had to say, "You need to stop."
Mm-hmm.
And
And it's always a bad look when you like, Brian, to your point, like chain of command to me, I mean, coming from military is most important. Like if I fuck up, I want Rick, my let's say manager, hopefully not director. Let's say you're my direct manager. You're the one who's gonna light me up, and ideally in private. But if like I'm a low hanging fruit and the CIO comes down into my hole to just light me up in front of everybody, you're like, Jesus, dude, is that Geneva Convention friendly? I think that's a war crime.
that
was not necessary.
happens. You have every right to just like, all right, here's my badge, here's my keys.
Go
I'm
fuck
out.
yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you came down from your perch up and it's like, I'm just gonna wreck some service desk guy. I'm like, you're an asshole. There is no
There's,
reason for that.
There's a corollary between the seagull change and the sea level that comes down to wreck a help desk person.
The Seagull IO.
Yeah. All right. Damn it.
The same
That's
boss.
good.
The same boss that had the comment about like for that price it better come with a hooker also had a really great thing. He's like, look, shit rolls downhill, gripes roll up, and it never should the shit sidestep, right? Like everybody gets it in line. There's no direct path.
And there's got to be a buffer. I mean, I've been in tons of leadership positions. I was of the class of 30 people in the Coast Guard, and I'd open up. I think I'd do it like once a week, might have been daily. I was like, hey, if there's anyone has gripes or problems, let me know. And I always said like 20% of dissension is the healthy amount. If it's lower than that, I'm being too soft. If it's more than that, I'm being too much of a tyrant. But if crap would come down from leadership, it was like, if I can take off like 10-20% of that crap, then I'm doing my job. If I can get more, that's fantastic. But if I just like am a pass through, it's like, oh, they want to do 100 things, I'm just gonna pass. Hey guys, we're doing 100 things. Like, you didn't like fight at all. Like, come on, there should be like, as things go through, and this is true of like alerts and notifications, there should be tuning, there should be more details as things go through the system up and down the chain or across. It's like supposed to be not just like pass through, because a robot could do that without any problem.
As a manager at any level, you need to be mommy and daddy. You need to protect them from the BS, but you also have to be the one administering punishment. You have to protect them from above. Let them do their jobs. But when they deserve it, it's your job to discipline.
Right. And sometimes
you
really
to deliver a spanking.
to do that interference from up above. Usually in my case, it's not disciplinary issues or whatever. It's I get bypassed completely, where they go to my people and say, I need you to do these things. Right.
Yep.
And
you teach your people to say, which ticket is that on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
What's the ticket number? Oh,
Yeah.
you don't have one? No.
The ticket number
Although
is I own this fucking company.
The response that I've always had,
okay.
I'm happy.
And I am being a responsible steward of your equipment and your company from my perspective.
Mhm.
We have decided, you included, that the policy is to open a ticket for work to get done.
Right.
I'm asking you to follow your own policy.
Indeed.
Rick,
And when
the
I
phrase-
institute that policy, I will let you know, Brian.
Rick,
Or you just Rick, you just
the
have the
phrase that
cowboy
I will
hat
teach your
right on the
people to
side and be
use
like,
is-
"All right, partner, let's go rogue."
What was that, Chris?
yes, the phrase that I would teach your people is absolutely, Mr. CEO. I'll get right on that. But let me check with Rick first to make sure that he understands where my priorities are.
Where
at.
I've got him now, because I mean, I can't just change things overnight. And I know I've been there almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
In just a few days, I've got a year in. Where I've got him to now, thank you. Where I've got him to now is they go ahead and take the work, but as soon as the owner walks away, they put it in Trello and send me an email, or they'll come see me and say, I just talked to the boss. Here's what I've got. And if I think there's a change that needs to be made, I get up and I walk into the boss's office and say, I know you need this done. They're doing these things.
Perfect system.
So,
It-
and it works,
honestly,
right? So,
That is a perfect system dealing with a C-suite individual.
yeah.
There are some people that are exempt from tickets.
And
I don't care.
there are-
I don't care what the policy is. Like,
Mhm.
CEO doesn't want to open a ticket, fine.
See, and he is the CEO and president and owner of the company. We are not a public company. There's not a board of directors. There's not any of that. There's two people that own the company, and that is that, right? So
Are they married?
no, they're brother and sister.
Okay, good.
Are they married?
No,
This
Yeah,
isn't
you didn't
Tennessee.
answer the question.
No, he did. He said
I
no. they're
object,
brother
Your
and
Honor.
sister.
You going for the fifth?
He didn't say they're a brother, a sister, and a sister.
Okay,
That would be 5.
let's move on, you dorks. Anyway,
But
yeah,
that's like that's a matured, healthy culture, Rick, and that's in my experience is relatively, I would at least call it uncommon, if not rare, for someone to actually like take constructive criticism and be like, yeah, let's improve the process, or I hear you. I might have a little bit of pushback, but it's it's a healthy amount of like give and take. And
usually
the
it's-
logical next step would be to get him to come to you instead of going to your people.
And he is doing that more and more, and whatever. And we had a leadership meeting today where I brought up, okay, now we're getting to the point where we really should have a ticketing system because you guys are wanting me to quantify, efficiencies and things like that. So now,
Yeah, it's a thing
so
that
they're
doesn't
trainable,
apply.
right? And I think that goes up and down. Trainable people below you, but trainable people above you is also
that's
very
exactly
important.
right. So and I've said now when we do institute a ticketing system, a help desk system of some sort, everybody plays the same game. So and everybody has to follow the same rules, and they understand why, right? Because it's a small company, and when we had our leadership meeting, we all fit in one small room, or not a small room, but one room. So everybody's on board. I'm actually pretty fortunate that, the guy that owns the company's got an IS degree. He's good at what he does, and he understands what we're doing, right? And I've only had to go in and run interference, like I think twice in the last year, to say
That's
no.
not bad.
I
That's
need
reasonable.
I need so and so to do these things because you need these other things done, right? Don't forget what you asked them to do before you came in and asked them to do the second thing or third thing.
Right.
These are more important than the shiny thing you just thought of.
Right. Well, all of them are very important. It's just we have to prioritize, and
Yeah, you have to prioritize. You can't keep bouncing around between different projects. None
right,
of them
'cause
will get
it
done
won't get
adequately.
done. Right. And the bosses are pretty good about understanding that. So I do have
think
some
what
prima
you
donnas that
found-
need a lot of hand holding, but it's just they're Luddites.
You found an org where, so there's 2 kinds of people that are successful. There's the lucky and the good. And you found those that are good.
I think so. I think, and I'm the lucky one actually. So because I stumbled into the right place. So
Yeah.
Well, you could kind of quantify good as like good talented, but good that can mean actually good and good leader, or it means like rules with an iron fist and
no.
No.
slave driver.
Nope.
He was insanely hands off. It took me a long time to sort that because I'd go into his office. Can I do this? Can I do that? And he would look at me like, "Why are you bothering me?"
Mm-hmm.
You know. So it took me a while to get to that adjustment. He's very, very hands off, and he doesn't want to hear any. You don't want to hear problems or this. Well, I'm going to fire our current MSP, and I'm going to hire this MSP because we'll save $20,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we'll get probably the same, if not better, service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he wants to hear. So yeah,
Hey, Rick,
yeah,
go buy a copy of the 5-Minute Manager.
I have that somewhere. It's a good book. It's a good read.
Read it again.
Okay.
I think like what you're describing to me is a guy that wants you to have like embraced and fully embodied that book.
Okay. All
You'll be squared away.
right. It's been years since I took a look
Yeah.
at it. So.
I mean, it's
And I
like
don't think I read it through and through.
60 pages. It's stupid short.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Unless you read slow. Sorry, Travis.
I don't read it all.
I'm kidding.
Nice
I know
try.
that.
I do
That's
pictures,
That's why I like porn so much. It's the pictures.
If it's not YouTubeable,
But then they put up signs and I can't read them. Is this your signature? Oh man, the hard part.
Those kids would be very mad if they could read.
Jesus.
Oh Christ. Oh man.
And on that note, I think it's time to close the show.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we could wrap it up.
That's a good end.
We wouldn't be able to cover the rest of the things we were supposed to cover anyways in the time given.
Mhm.
We
Well, on
covered,
that note,
we
on a
actually got our
happy
stuff. We're
I,
on topic for the most part.
Yeah.
I was
Better
able
than
to
most
migrate,
times.
I was able to migrate my email box from on-premise Exchange to up in the cloud while we were having our conversation here. So that's
Oh.
Speaking of
Yeah.
alerts, uh-oh.
Yeah, have you tested email?
There hasn't been any alerts. It's fine.
Actually,
I haven't got a single email complaint. It's fabulous.
Yeah. See, I have an alert set up to
Checkmate.
send me an email every minute to let me know that there's no issues.
I've seen that, and that kills me inside that is awful.
Anyway. All right.
well, maybe it's not working. Yeah,
Well,
Well,
let's end the call on a
somebody's
high
stayed up
note
late.
and assume that it
Yep.
is.
might be.
Yes. We get to say, way to go, Rick. You did a
There you
good.
go.
I
I'm
assume you
sure.
did a great job. Fantastic.
I'm sure.
Not just this one, but this one.
Ooh, the extra little twist.
Oh.
Let me see. I'll just send myself an email.
You want us all to send you an email?
No,
Well, how do you know that you can get external emails?
I'm doing it from my Google account.
How's? Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, Google.
He's sending it from his OnlyFans mailbox.
That's
Yeah.
right.
are you the first box migrated?
There was one that was already there that was done in 2021, like long before I started. And,
Nice.
But yeah, I'm testing with
Okay.
my own account because if I have to, I'll
Yeah.
just recreate myself a new
Roll it
one.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
Is your delivery going to the cloud first or on-prem first?
I want it to go to the cloud first. That's what I'm after. So we'll
Okay.
see.
Well, yeah, that would be expected. Just
Yeah.
make sure like your group expansion is working properly, and
Best of luck.
that's like one of those things that blow up.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't know anything about that.
Nice.
All right. Well,
Since
thank you,
don't know
everyone.
anything, I might be calling you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
All right.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Maybe next week, but I'll probably not be in the mood.
Let's
I'll
just
be
say,
traveling.
let's just say maybe next week.
Maybe
Also,
next week.
Travis,
Maybe
If
the
not,
week
the week after.
good luck on your presentation.
Indeed, enjoy.
Well,
And I'll
Yeah.
be
Finish-
pirating the
finish
whole
it up.
weekend, so I'll be
yar.
swabbing the decks as well as drinking a whole lot of rum.
Yeah, you'll be swabbing, all right.
Mhm.
Only if you ask nice.
I pay in doubloons. Keep it old school.
Jesus. All right. right, ding that bell, hit the subscribe button, like, follow.
Subscribe.
Yeah, do all the things Chris said, not the things that we said.
Smash that
All
like
right.
button.
Yeah.